My friends, at 95 years old, I've learned something about the way the world works. I've lived through 14 presidents, 17 recessions, 2 major wars, and more economic storms than I can count. And yet, no matter how advanced technology gets, no matter how loud the media becomes, no matter how quickly headlines flash across our screens, human nature remains exactly the same. And tonight, the headline blares like a siren. Trump will do everything possible to stop Pam Bondi from releasing the files. Now, when a headline uses words like everything possible, that should make you stop, not for fear, but for understanding. Because urgency reveals truth long before truth reveals itself. I've always believed that the loudest headlines usually hide the quietest truths. And this headline, this one right here, is hiding something enormous. People think this story is about Pam Bondi. People think it's about documents. People think it's another routine political mess with names, dates, files, statements, the usual circus. But I've lived long enough to know that the real story is never the one placed in bold letters. The real story is always found in what powerful people are trying hardest to keep hidden. And when Donald Trump says he will do everything possible to stop someone from releasing documents, that means those documents aren't just dangerous. They're explosive. Let me tell you something only age can teach you. Men fear public scandal, but they fear private exposure much more. Public scandal embarrasses you. Private exposure destroys you. And Donald Trump is not a man afraid of embarrassment. He's lived his entire life in the spotlight, sometimes positive, often negative, but always loud. Embarrassment has never stopped him from anything. So if he is scrambling, pushing, fighting, raging, if he is losing sleep and demanding control, it's not because the public might see something. It's because the wrong people might see it. And those people are not journalists. They're not voters. They're not critics. They're not rivals. They are the people behind the scenes, the donors, the financiers, the billionaires, the political architects, the strategists, the hidden hands, the people whose money built the walls he stands on, the people who can remove those walls if they ever choose to. People ask me all the time, Warren, how do you know when a man is really in trouble? And I always say, when he stops defending his reputation and starts defending his secrets. That's what's happening here. Trump is not trying to avoid embarrassment. He's trying to avoid consequences. Now let's talk about Pam Bondi for a moment, because understanding her role is essential to understanding the magnitude of the panic happening behind the curtain. Bondi is not a random figure. She is not an outsider. She is someone who has been close enough to Trump's world to hold information that matters, information that didn't come from the outside but from the inside. And inside information is the most powerful kind. You see, there are 2 kinds of files in politics. The files everyone expects, and the files no one expects. The first category contains the things the public already suspects: financial disclosures, meeting logs, scheduling contradictions, donations, phone records. It's the kind of stuff that makes noise for a week and then disappears like every other political headline. But the second category, those are the files that change everything. Those are the files that have the power to make donors disappear overnight. Those are the files that make even the most protected political figure shake. Those are the files Trump knows Bondi holds. And let me tell you something most people don't understand about billionaires. They do not fear scandals. They fear unpredictability, a scandal they can manage, a scandal they can spin, a scandal they can drown in donations and public relations campaigns. But unpredictable damage, damage that affects them, their networks, their deals, their reputations, their financial ties, that is what terrifies them. Trump has survived every scandal thrown at him because his backers, his funders, his protectors, the people who operate quietly, stayed with him. But if Bondi's files contain anything that threatens them, anything that touches their interests or reveals connections they wanted to stay buried, anything that could redirect scrutiny toward their circles, then Trump won't just face criticism, he'll face abandonment. And abandonment is the one thing power cannot survive. I've lived long enough to witness the fall of powerful CEOs, kings of industry, governors, senators, and global businessmen. They all had different personalities, different styles, different legacies, but they fell for the same reason. Money walked away. You can withstand scandal if money stays. You can withstand investigations if money stays. You can withstand public outrage but if the money leaves you, your power leaves with it. Trump understands this better than anyone. He has always been a man supported by structures he didn't build. He built the brand, but others built the foundation. And they built it because they believed he was useful. The moment he becomes dangerous to them instead of useful, those same hands can dismantle what they once protected. And that, my friends, is why he fears the Bondi files. Not because they damage him, because they might damage someone much bigger than him. When I was in my 40s, I once watched a business titan, a man twice my wealth at the time, someone the newspapers called untouchable, collapse overnight. Not because of what he did, but because someone discovered something that connected his actions to one of his major investors. That investor didn't wait for the public to find out. He pulled all his money within 72 hours. 3 other investors followed him by the end of the week. By the end of the month, the untouchable man was bankrupt. One piece of information did that. A single piece, not because it was big, but because it was connected. Connections are everything. And Trump knows what connections he cannot afford to expose. Pam Bondi knows too. She knows because she's been inside the rooms where people think the walls don't have ears. She knows because she's seen the conversations that were never meant for public consumption. She knows because she was trusted at a time when no one expected she would ever hold power over the people she once served. And now she does. My friends, let me say something gently, something that only experience can teach you. Power is never lost. It is only transferred. Trump once had control over Bondi. Today, she has control over him. That is why he will do everything possible. Because this is not about loyalty. This is about leverage. And leverage is more powerful than loyalty by a factor of 10. Now, I want you to imagine something with me for a moment. Imagine a meeting happening behind closed doors somewhere in Palm Beach or New York or Washington. A quiet meeting, no cameras, no reporters, just a table, a few chairs, and the donors who truly hold the reins. They aren't emotional. They aren't panicking. They aren't sweating. They are calculating, asking questions like, what exactly is Bondi prepared to release? How much exposure does this give us? Who does it implicate? What's the risk to our interests? What's the probability she talks? What's the cost of stopping her? What's the cost of letting it happen? People think politics is about passion. No, it's about calculation. It's always been about calculation. The voices yelling on television, the statements, the tweets, the dramatic press conferences, those are the fireworks. The real power is in the silent rooms, the quiet meetings, the unspoken agreements. And in those rooms right now, Trump is not the center of the conversation. The files are. Bondi is. The risk is, and that is what terrifies him. Because if donors believe those files contain something that puts them in danger, they will do what they have always done throughout history. Distance themselves first, deny involvement second, and remove the problem entirely if necessary. A politician can survive public outrage. He cannot survive donor abandonment. Let me tell you this clearly. When Trump says he will do everything possible, he means he knows he is close to losing the one thing he cannot buy, the confidence of the people who fund him. He thinks he's fighting Bondi. He isn't. He's fighting time. He's fighting fear. He's fighting the clock ticking toward exposure. He's fighting the silent power structure that decides his future long before the public does. You know, people often ask me, Warren, how can you stay calm when everyone else is panicking? And I always say, because I pay attention to the part no one else is watching. And the part no one is watching right now is this. If Bondi releases those files, the real shock won't be what Trump did, but who else knew about it? Who else was involved? Who else benefited? Who else protected him? Because in politics, the truth is never isolated. It always has connections, and connections create consequences. This is why Trump will do everything possible, because he is not fighting for reputation. He is fighting for survival. And at 95 years old, I can tell you this, a man fighting for survival is far more dangerous than a man fighting for pride. This is only the beginning of the real story. And the truth sitting beneath the surface is far bigger than any headline suggests.